Shalom Aleichem. What we have here is the Chumash, the 5 books of the Torah, with a translation commentary based on the works of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is my dear friend Shoshana sent this to me, the Zecher Nishmas, in loving memory of her father, her beloved father, Harry Berger. It's Reb Tzvi ben Shraga Dov HaKohen, Zichron L'Bracha, and he was Nifter Chaf Hey Kislev, Tavshin Ein Gimel, 12/09/2012. So anyway, this is he was Nifter during the Parsha of Miketz. This is Joseph the Viceroy. So anyway, Reb Tzvi Zichron L'Bracha, Reb Tzvi ben Shraga Dov HaKohen, he has one or two similarities to Joseph, that he was also in the hospitality, the line of the hospitality line. He was in the hotel line, and he helped people with their lodging. Joseph was also in the was the provider of people, helped people with sustenance. So Shoshana's father was also very, very good with helping people if they needed whatever they needed. So people that are sometimes in the lodging line, the line of the profession of providing lodging for people, sometimes have a lot of chesed. They do a lot of chesed, and so it is with her beloved father, Reb Tzvi Zichron L'Bracha. Anyway, this is Miketz. Joseph. We're talking the Torah talks about Joseph the Viceroy. This is Bereshis. In Bereshis, the 10th section of the book of Genesis continues the chronicle of Joseph. It begins after Miketz, at the end of in Hebrew. Miketz in Hebrew is at the end of. Joseph asked Pharaoh's cupbearer to intercede for him. This time it was Pharaoh who dreams and seeks a qualified interpreter, because Joseph was an interpreter of dreams. Joseph interprets Pharaoh's dreams convincingly as referring to 7 coming years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine, which leads Pharaoh to appoint Joseph as viceroy of Egypt. He saw that he was so adept at interpreting dreams, he felt that who is more suited to lead Egypt than Joseph. The onset of famine brings Joseph's brothers to Egypt to buy food. When Joseph sees them, he devises a way to determine if they have abandoned their hatred of him and are ready to join him in moving the family forward in its divine mission. In Parshat Vayeshev, we saw Joseph begin his odyssey in Egypt, following him as he was sold to the royal butcher, promoted to administrator of his master's household, incarcerated on trumped-up charges, and subsequently promoted to administrator of the prison. While imprisoned, he interpreted the dreams of his fellow inmates, predicting that one of them would shortly be freed, and asking him to intercede on his behalf upon his release. The Parsha closes as this former inmate ignored Joseph's requests, leaving him to languish in prison. The pattern of these events is one of descent followed by illusory ascent. Both times that Joseph appears to be on his way out of his predicament, he is cast into a new one. The moment he began to indulge in feelings of security as the butcher's administrator, he was shown just how fragile that security was. After he again felt secure when he was promoted to administrator of the prison, he was shown how hopeless his prospects were. Both instances in which he ascended to power served to bring home how even from the best imaginable vantage point he was still merely a slave, a prisoner. By the end of the Parsha, his apparent successes, rather than providing him with hope, only made a mockery of his situation, leaving him desperate. Parshat Miketz shows Joseph once again promoted, this time to Viceroy of Egypt. In contrast to his previous promotions, he remains in his prominent posts until the end of his life, and as granted not only full control over his own life, but over everyone else's lives as well. From this perspective, Joseph's life begins to mirror that of his father, Jacob. Jacob had also been thrust into difficult circumstances and had to discover how to prosper in spite of them. In demonstrating his ability to flourish in a hostile environment, Joseph was starting to manifest the qualities his father had seen in him from birth, qualities that would later enable him to continue the work Jacob had begun, overcoming the most profound challenge to the divine mission, exile. This ability to achieve great heights in the face of exile, as exemplified by Joseph, is alluded to in the name of this parsha, Miketz, which means at the end. The word for end actually means extreme, and thus alludes to how evil, the lower extreme on the moral continuum, should elicit our inner strengths for good, the upper extreme of that continuum. Inasmuch as the two extremes of any process are its beginning and its end, the word Miketz alludes not only to the end of exile, whether Joseph's exile in prison or our present personal and general exile, but also to how this nexus itself becomes the beginning of redemption. As we will see, Joseph was able to extricate himself from the depths and soar to great heights by learning to surrender his ego as soon as he acknowledged God's presence and providence in his life, abandoning the illusion that his achievements were the result of his own prowess. True success ceased to elude him. These, then, are the lessons of Parshat Miketz. Every descent we undergo is intended to lead us to an even greater ascent. The key to transforming a descent into an ascent is letting go of our ego, and the challenge of exile is to turn the tables on it, co-opting the powers of passion and ambition and transforming them into good and holy forces. So this is Parshat Miketz. Vayehi Miketz Shenosayim Yomim. Vayehi Miketz Shenosayim Yomim Ufaro Cholem. V'hinei Omed Al Hayaor. At the end of 2 full years, after the chief cupbearer was released from prison, Pharaoh had a dream. In his dream, there he was, standing by the Nile River. V'hinei min hayor olos sheva paros yefos mareh uvrios basor vatirano ba'achu. When 7 good-looking, robust cows emerged from the Nile River and started grazing in the marsh. V'hinei sheva paros acheros olos acharehen min hayor roos mareh v'dakos basor vata'amodna eitzel haparos al sfas hayor. Then 7 other cows, ugly and scrawny, emerged after them from the Nile River, and they stood next to the good-looking cows on the bank of the river. The ugly, scrawny cows ate up the 7 good-looking cows, 7 good-looking, robust cows. Paro then woke up. So that was the first dream, where there were the very good-looking, healthy cows coming out of the Nile River, and then there were the scrawny, skinny cows coming out of the Nile River, and they were standing together, and then the ugly, scrawny cows ate up the 7 good-looking, robust cows. So Paro then woke up. Then there was a second dream. Then seven ears of grain sprouted after them, gaunt and parched from being battered by the east wind.